Okay, so this is going to be a video on the +1 5 fact for TVP. The disclaimer before we even get started is that I am by no means the best Terran around. I'm just a B Terran, and I can tap A using this build, but there's better Terrans than me, so they might do it differently, and I would also take their advice or any corrections they have to offer. But this is the way that I do it, and there's so many people asking for build order, and as far as I know, there isn't a video on it. I think Jin's working on translating a video from Light. But until we get that, maybe this will help some people out there. And another disclaimer is, for some reason I have a bug on my replays. When I have it sped up, the supplies, the numbers are kind of behind the time. So it seems a little off. It's just the standard opening. Everything here assumes it's standard, like a 23 Nexus or a 29 Nexus, 11 racks, 12, 12 gas, 13 scout. All super standard. The things are going to change. If your opponent does something like they didn't make a Nexus or whatever, then things are going to change, or they went 2-gate or something along those lines. So Marine, Depot, we pause an SCV and take 2 off of gas. Once we get to 88 here on the gas, we're going to pause an SCV. We have a Marine building, and we're going to make the factory on 16 supply. Again, we have a bug here. That should say 16. It's just because I have the replay sped up. So here's the first thing. Probe is annoying. What else is new? And then we're going to resume SCV production. Depot's finishing. We're going to make 3 Marines. When the factory is at 100%, we'll make 1 Vulture, and we will take the SCV that's building the factory and go make a CC with it. Here, we're pausing SCV production. We still have 2 off gas. We have 3 Marines. We're not making a 4th, and we're going to go make the CC. You cannot do this if the opponent opens Zealot. This is just standard opening. Keep that in mind. That's no Zealot. They made a Nexus. You scouted it. You can do it this way. If things are different, then don't do it this way. You need to make another depot and keep making Marines. If there's a Zealot, you might need to make a bunker first or something along those lines. So just keep that in mind. You have to adapt based on what your opponent's doing. But this is the general opening, okay? So we have the Vulture. We're still paused on SCV production. The CC goes down at 24 supply. And now we're going to make a depot here. We're going to make another SCV. And then we go machine shop. The Vulture is going to just run away, just get right out of the base. And then we're going to put 2 back on gas. And we're going to go make a bunker down on our low ground. 3 Marines can fight 1 goon without range, so if the goon comes, just fight it. I went and scouted. He had a goon there. You really want to keep that Vulture alive and go mines and a second Vulture right away. Now, here's where things are going to differentiate between maybe a lot of other players. I almost always go eBay first because in my mind, if you're going to push with this build, you're going to move out at around 9 minutes. Even if you get your Armory after your eBay in this scenario, your +1 is going to be done before you move out. So it's really about a +1 armor timing being sooner and then the rest of your upgrades being sooner, getting the starport sooner and all that. But I like to play just really safe, and I just go eBay. And if you're at the lower levels of play, let's say anything below like 1800 or something along those lines, I would just recommend that you go eBay and make a turret here right away. You'll defend from DTs, and you can add your other turrets later around the 6-minute and 30-second mark, or you can make them sooner. So a lot of people may say, oh, go Armory first. You scouted. There's no reason to go eBay. There's no reason to suspect DTs. I'm going eBay anyways, and that's my general advice for a lot of people. Optimizing, getting really crazy about optimizing turret timing and all this stuff gets more and more important as you ladder up, but if you're trying to get to B or something along those lines, this is going to be fine. So we made 3 Vultures, and we have the Armory going up here after the eBay, and Mines is about to be finished, and we're going to make a tank. And I always do it the same way every time, guys. I just lay 3 mines here. I get my turret. As my coaches often recommend, this turret is too close to the bunker. If they are DTs, they can easily snipe this. So probably better to put this somewhere like back here. Just a little little criticism. And then we're using the vultures to mine up the bases and just the map so that the Protoss player cannot expand without getting the observer. Obviously, they could run a zealot into this or something, but this just gives you a little early map control. And when you open 3 vulture and mines, it's just much cheaper than opening tanks with siege. And it allows you to afford, your armory and your +1 and all this stuff without having to get a second gas as early. And so it's much more economical, and you get the map control and the scouting on top of that, right? And you have potential to be super annoying and kill their probe that makes their base. And now he has to wait here. He can't come shoot my bunker because I opened vulture. So anyways, now we're going to get +1 and add our other turrets. For some reason in my game, this +1 didn't start right away. That's okay. And I'm going to go 2 tanks. We're getting siege. You need to have siege by 6:30-ish, depending on spawns, because this is the observer timing when the observer comes out, and mines are only going to keep the goons from coming and killing you until about that time. So you need to start siege after mines and start producing tanks. Like I said, the timing for observer coming out around here is right around 6 minutes and 30 seconds if they went robo after their nexus. So keep that in mind. Then I always go Goliath and second factory after my second tank. And I get my second gas after I start my second factory. Now, if you open tank, let's say they went 2 gate and you couldn't open mines, and you had to go tank and siege, you're going to get your second gas when you start your +1 attack, because that's how much more expensive it is to start producing tanks and get siege early in the game. So just keep that in mind. If you open 3 vulture, you get that second gas a little later. It's much more economical. And some people even go academy before their second factory. I like to do it this way. I get a quick Goliath, and then it's back to tanks, and I get Goliath range here at the same time. And this entire build, at the beginning, we have our 3 standard turrets, by the way, zoning observers from easily seeing the factories. And then we're going to get academy. And this factory is going to make Goliaths. This factory is going to make tanks. I'll just pause here and finish my thought. This entire build, the opening is going to be based on supply. 24 CC, 12 gas, 11 barracks. You're scouting on 13, all that stuff. The second you get your CC down, you have your depot down, and you resume SCV production after that slight pause when you're waiting to get that depot, everything in the entire build is SCVs first. There's no, you should make the factory at 32 supply or whatever. None of that. SCVs prioritized above everything else. Never cut an SCV to build anything ever in this build, because you need to have your full saturation by the 8-minute mark, and that's how you're going to go back and watch your replays and judge how well that you're making SCVs and doing the build. Otherwise, it's the timing isn't going to line up correctly. Okay, so just as a note about that, some people go academy off of 1 factory. I always go academy off of 2. Some people make all their factories and then get their academy so that they can get their factory sooner. If you go academy at 1 or 2 factories, you should have about 47 SCVs at the 8-minute mark. If you get your academy after your factories, you should have 50 SCVs around the 8-minute mark. Okay, so I prefer to have the scouting information and a few less SCVs, the scouting information earlier than doing the academy after having more SCVs. But I think generally, not to speak for anybody, but the purpose of, and I never do this, that's why I'm kind of hypothesizing, you get the academy after, is because in your mind you're saying, I'm going to push no matter what. Maybe I'll even go, 6 factor or something. And so in that case, if you're pushing no matter what, then it kind of makes sense. But there's so many scenarios where you can't push. Like if they went 9 gate with shuttles or something and you went 5 fact and got this later, it sure would have been nice to know ahead of time so that you could just make your CC down here, your 3rd CC, and not waste any time. So I think it's worth the 3 SCVs. So again, at 8 minutes, we should have about 47 SCVs. And the time that the comsats come down, right around the time the comsats are going to come down, is the time where you're going to have the minerals to add 3 factories. And it lines up perfectly because you're pausing on the SCV production to get the comsats. And so, the money goes up to get the factories. And then after Goliath range, you just go for Vulture speed. And we're getting a total of 4 Goliaths out of this machine shop. And so here, this is a whole other part of the game that I'm not going to get into. We're not going to go through this whole replay. This is just going to go to like the 9 and the 9.5 minute mark. But this is why I like to have the scanners at 8 minutes so that I can scan the gateway count, and I'm going to make my decision if I'm going to push based on what I see here, okay? And that's a whole nother video. I'm not going to get into that. I'm not going to get into executing the push because performing the build order in your bases like this in a standard game is one thing, and then making the decision to push and executing a push across the map is a totally different skill set. So you can be really good at this part and nail all this stuff, and then think you're going to go push because the timing is good and lose even though you should win because executing the push is a totally different skill set, right? So we're basically going to stop here, and the goal is, at the end here, you should have all your factory upgrades. You just have the one machine shop done. You just make the upgrades continuously. You should have about 47 scvs at 8 minutes and 5 factories and 2 machine shops. Now, earlier in the game, I should have been a little bit more prudent about my factory placement and made this one kind of over here, so I could have made another machine shop, but so it was sooner. But that's okay. You could always add one here. And then you should have 6 tanks when you go push. This is like my fault in this build right here where I'm not producing a tank for some reason. There's something going on with my gas that I didn't execute properly. And then, some Terrans are going to just, even though they have the machine shops, they're going to do like a round or 2 of Vultures out of all their factories, even the ones with the machine shop, as they come out to catch up on the Vultures. And then they're going to resume the tank production and then make the Vultures out of the 3. And then, like I said, doing the push is a totally different thing. So this is the build. This is how I do it. There's people do it differently. Some people go Vulture speed before Goliath range. I like to be safe and go eBay and get my turrets and get my Goliaths because at our level of play and lower, people don't have amazing control, and it's they'll make mistakes, and a couple Goliaths with range, when a shuttle flies into your base, that shuttle is probably going to die. And if there's a Reaver in there and you get the shuttle and the Reaver for free, your push is you're gonna win. And there's so many games where people try to harass you, and especially at the lower levels, and do crazy stuff. And it's just nice to have the turrets and the Goliaths with the range, and mine up the map and have this really economical, safe opening. I think it can get you really far. And like I said, I hope it helps people. So until next time, later.